Good afternoon, investigators. For the 50th time this year, I've just spent 3 hours in hair and makeup. Put a shirt on, couldn't do the tie up. It's too hot in Queensland at the moment, so no tie today, unfortunately. But a lot of information to get through for our final Spy Curious for 2022. Yes, it's the 50th one. Have we covered some ground this year? I'll come back to that next week when we'll have a non-live program and you can see what we've covered this year in that. All right, so today, don't forget, there's Andy. So, problem solved. True stories from a blind private eye. The Kindle version is even available today. So you can still order that for Christmas. Andy Chambers' great private investigator book from Andy Chambers, licensed private investigator who is blind, down in Melbourne. So this week we're going to cover a whole lot of things with some news and stuff like that. We've just completed Friday UNI, which is our Australian Security Academy alumni, and AirLap Friday, Continuous Professional Development and Continuous Professional Education Program. Casey's been doing OSINT and Pat Flynn did handle sensitive information. So what's the big deal with that? What happened if you missed it today? Well, if you missed it, you missed how to get a complete corporate employee email list in seconds. So you got your invitation to it. If you're an Australian Security Academy student, you didn't get your invitation to it, you better get in touch with me because you don't want to miss what was there today. G'day, Paul. Good to see you, mate. Thanks for dropping by. I know you're busy every Friday. So what have we got to get through today in episode 181 of Spy Curious? Well, basically, there's a whole lot of news and lots of investigator jobs. So let's have a look at some of those jobs. Wise Workplace have a vacancy for an investigator down in Hobart, Tasmania. You must be a licensed private investigator. The Department of Justice in Hobart, Tasmania have a vacancy and they're paying $86,000. You must have a certificate in government investigation. Up in Cairns, I've got a vacancy for a debt collection and ongoing long-term work for a mercantile agent. Now, the particular need by the employer that I'm going to be sending your resume to, once you send it to me, is that you complete all your paperwork and your report properly. Now, that's a big difficulty for some people, but I'm sure that if you're in Cairns and you've got your private investigator license with the ability to be a debt collector as well, then there's continuous work in Cairns there waiting for you. It's a great organisation to work for. I've known the owner of the organisation for 19 years. Champion bloke. If you're up that way, you want to get into debt collection, you've got the licence, get in touch with me at that email address, send your resume, and I will pass that on for you. Westpac are looking for an investigator in Sydney. So what's the big deal with that? You're a corporate investigator. You'll need a certificate for in government investigation. You don't need a private investigator's licence. All these jobs that you have just seen and more coming up soon are available on our Australian Security Academy investigation, corporate and government investigation jobs page. So you just go to Facebook, type in Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigation jobs. All these jobs, plus a whole lot more, will come up. And this is a beauty. This is a great opportunity. You don't have to be an accountant, right? You will need an investigator's licence at the Professionals PKF Integrity in Brisbane. That's a very rare vacancy. Okay, get in touch with them, get on our Facebook page, find out all about it. It's there with all these other jobs. Clarity in Workplace Solutions in Q, upmarket Q. Whoa, we come from Q, Clarity. Okay, Clarity in Q, in leafy Q in Melbourne, want investigators. If you're an Australian Security Academy graduate student with a Certificate 3 in Investigative Services, get in touch with them, they'll employ you. And they've got loads of work. So what are you waiting for? Get rid of that. Let's have a look at some of the news this week. I'll come back to some more jobs in a minute. So let's see. A meter reader in Brisbane last week was unfortunately mauled by 3 dogs and died on Friday afternoon while we were doing this program. The Australia Post have come out and said this time of year, posties are getting attacked by dogs everywhere because the delivery's up, that sort of thing. So when you study at the Australian Security Academy, you have to study in your assessments and your learning public liability dog bite. And you find out how this circumstance comes about. And if the place has got insurance, home and contents insurance, they have up to $5 million public liability for if their dog attacks someone and bites them and injures them. Now, 3 people in Queensland so far this year, young child, a lady and a man, have been killed by dogs. This is terrible. It's awful. However, if that place has home and contents insurance, the relatives will be able to sue for the lost income for their deceased husband, wife, child, whatever. Child, they don't have any income, but there is a liability suit going to hit them in regards to that matter. They were in control of those dogs. It didn't have to happen on their property. The dogs could have wandered up to the golf course and killed someone there or injured someone there. So that home and contents insurance covers that liability, even if it happens away from the insured premises. I'm not making fun of it, but that's what we do. And you learn all about that at the Australian Security Academy. Now, Clarity Investigations, they know that. PKF Integrity, they know that. All the top investigation agencies, they know that because they all studied at the Australian Security Academy. So when you do a course, make sure that your course is substantial, you get feedback, you get support, and you're learning something that's relevant. You don't want to learn what an ex-cop wants to tell you. You want to learn what's actually in the Certificate 3 in Investigative Services or the Certificate 4 in Government Investigation. Hitting the headlines today about liability, this guy down in Hobart who sexually harassed a young lady, he went to court. There was a big argy-bargy about it, and he ended up having to pay her $45,000 in aggravated damages. Now, he'd slapped her on the bottom and he made offensive, uninvited, unwanted comments to her and all this sort of thing, and she was in a no-win situation, this poor retail worker that this guy was harassing. He's repeating all these things. He's called her Juicy Lucy on 6 occasions, which is really like top-class work by a sexual harasser. There's a young lady doing a job, copying this from an idiot. So he's doing all that, and he got fined $45,000 to do it. Now, she also sued her employer. Fair enough, so she should. You would, so would I. So her employer paid her $60,000 in workers' compensation in relation to that. So this guy, he's kicked up a real fuss going, well, she's already been paid once. I'm not paying her $45,000, and he took it to court. Now, the magistrate, he wasn't really having it. He wasn't happy about it, right? But he ended up having what he has to pay halved down to $22,000 because she'd already got the $60,000 from a workplace. That's sort of like reverse double jeopardy, isn't it? So he still has to pay her the 22. I don't think she'll ever get it. I don't think, unless he wins Tatslotto. There's a whole lot of implications in relation to the original decision. You can Google it, and the guy has got a really Googleable name. So if you look at toll delivery driver who sexually harassed a sanity worker, all the information will come up and you'll see it on the internet. And it's now deleted off my computer because I don't like looking at creeps on my computer. All right, so other news this week. Former top diplomat Keith Douglas was unmasked as a child porn offender, and you can read all about what he got up to and what he did if you're into that sort of thing. He's been named and shamed, and good on you, whoever did it in the media. He hid it for years, was able to cover it up, but now he's been outed, and that's all gone. So that's in investigation news this week, some of those things. Some more jobs. This is a great one. Illegal dumping compliance and surveillance officer up at Cairns. You won't need a licence for that. You need a certificate for in government investigation from the Australian Security Academy. Intelligence analyst at the Greyhound Racing in Victoria. Now, you're going to see jobs everywhere. Now, everything's intelligence focused. What corporations, licensing authorities, that sort of thing do is they monitor activity on social media. They're not listening to your phone calls, but they have link charts, they have sentiment charts, and they see who's doing what. So if some creep complains about something, they can research it, see it, and their intelligence tells them who's all linked to it. Another example of that, for example, someone goes into the police station and goes, rah, 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 complain, 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 this person, injustice, blah, 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 right? So that's what they do. Now, what the cops are doing basically is they're typing in the person's complaint into the computer. But the first thing they do is they say, what's your name? What's your address? Got your driver's license number for this complaint? Yep. They're checking to see if they've got outstanding warrants. And if they have, they just reach over, grab the person, pull them inside, arrest them, stick them in the cells and deal with it later. So on social media, the intelligence there is just the same as the outstanding warrants in the police station. It's exactly the same process. It's nothing new, except there's a computer involved now. So what they do is they look, oh, this person's complaining and it's an awful complaint and it's terrible things. And they recognise straight away through their intelligence process, the guy's a creep. And that creep is linked to these creeps. And all these creeps are saying this, well, we're not going to go in and bat for him and do his dirty work for him. So the intelligence process goes like that. So in greyhound racing in where is it? Victoria, how does that work? Well, there's websites, there's news articles, there's newsletters, that sort of thing. And there's people saying, oh, this one dopes that and this one can get you a couple of mils of this and stick it in there. And this dog's going to run slower next week and this one's going to run. And they're all saying that. So someone's got to do the intelligence on that. So that's a great job. Now, this is an interesting one, this job. Circumstance investigator, workers' compensation by MJM Corporate Risk Services in Melbourne. In Sydney, it's a factual investigator. It's both the same work. What? In Melbourne, they say alphabet and Mao. In New South Wales, they say alphabet and more. You say tomato, I say tomato. In Victoria, they say circumstance investigator. In New South Wales, they say factual investigator. It's just a different way of saying it. So same job, same work. Good on you, MJM. Great that you're doing workers' compensation work, factual investigations. Absolutely fantastic. Get down there and work for MJM with your Australian Security Academy Certificate 3 in Investigative Services. The lab staff up in Brisbane for the Forensics Service have been ordered to explain themselves. They now received $95 million to fix up their mess in stuffed up DNA tests. So that's up in Queensland. Only happened in Queensland. It's really, really interesting, that one. So they're just some of the jobs that you will see if you go and have a look on this Facebook page. You have to ask to join it. I approve everyone that asks who is real. If you're fake or you joined Facebook yesterday, you'll never get in. But if you want to research what jobs are available in government, corporate and private investigation in Australia, local council, state government, federal government, I have it on that, Australian Security Academy Facebook page. So certainly don't be afraid to go and have a look at that. Sorry about the Christmas decorations. Accidentally hit that. More information this week. What else has happened? This is really important. The Women's Safety and Justice Task Force in Queensland have come out and they have now organised that you can't use matters or evidence of a sexual nature in relation to a person against them in court anymore. Now, that sounds really weird, doesn't it? So what happened is Marital and relationship investigators in Queensland have, in a couple of cases, been hired for coercive control, and they went along with it, of ladies in Queensland. So they did surveillance on them so that the client, the husband or the ex or whatever, could exercise coercive control over the ladies. And they set up cameras in their houses, and the investigators used trackers and listening devices, all illegal. You can't do it. All right? These are licensed investigators that were doing it, and there's 2 named, numbered and recorded cases of it, and I'd say there's plenty that haven't complained about it, so there'll be a lot more. So there's 2 of those, and these people are doing something about it. Now, they've said you can't use matters of a sexual nature anymore. Now, this brought back real memories for me. The easiest investigation for surveillance I was ever given in my life was an elderly lady. She lived 2 blocks away from me, and she reckoned she had like a right leg injury and couldn't work. So they wanted to know if she could work or not. This was great. I didn't have to get up at 4 o'clock and drive for an hour to go and start surveillance, at 5 o'clock in the freezing cold. And so I drove around the block for 5 minutes, didn't get a lot of mileage out of that or travel time. And I set up my surveillance vehicle in the car park of this surf club. And as you can see, it's got a gravel car park area. It's gravel then, it's gravel now, and I'm surprised they've got a photo of it in colour. I thought it would have been in black and white. When I'd done it, they didn't have colour photos then. So anyway, I've sent along here and I set up my vehicle's observation position in this car park. Now, the lady came outside around about 9:30 to check her mail. I wasn't filming her, I just saw her come out. She looked up at me. She knew what I was doing straight away. I was 500 metres away. She picked me as a surveillance operative from that distance instantly. Gotcha. I know what you're doing. I know. You can after a while, you can just read it when they really do. A lot of the time you think they do and they don't, especially in the beginning. You think everybody knows what you're doing. They don't. Anyway, 20 minutes later, this guy comes hurtling up the hill into the car park in his Datsun 120Y, and he does this big donut beside me. He covers my car in dust and filth, and I'm sitting there reading the paper, ignoring him, and he revs it, and I look across. I was staring at the Milky Bar Kid. No bullshit. This tough guy in this Datsun 120Y has just covered my car in dust. That's what he looked like. The Milky Bar Kid was his spitting image. He was the same short height. He was the blonde hair. He had the glasses. Didn't have a hat on. And I thought, what are you going to do, mate? And he drove down the hill and went into that lady's house. It was her son. So about 30 minutes later, she drove out. Now, what they wanted me to do was follow her, because that would confirm that I was having her under surveillance. So I just stayed there. I stayed there reading the paper. It was last week's paper. I had one lying around. And then about 30 minutes later, he drove out. So all this open source intelligence and Google searches and all that, so it didn't exist back then. There was no internet. And still today, it hasn't changed. I went to the best source of intelligence that you can possibly get. The local hairdresser, my sister-in-law. So I rang her up and I said, Kai, Milky Bar Kid, Datsun 120Y, about 18, 19. She goes, oh, don't you know who that is? I said, no. She said, oh, such and such. I said, yes, so what? She said, he was the guy that stabbed his girlfriend the night before his 18th birthday when he was still 17 years old, 35 times, and killed her, and she had 7 kids. And I went, what'd you say his name was again? And she said that. Where I'd parked my surveillance vehicle on the easiest job I was ever given, 2 blocks away from where I lived, The Australian Federal Police had that murdering little slime bag under surveillance for 6 months before he went to court. Now, Michael Hodgman, the politician and barrister, got him off. And he got him off because she was 23 years old. She had 7 kids. And they put, she's dead, right? She's deceased. They put her sex life on trial in that murder trial. And the court accepted it. They said, yeah, she deserved it. Case closed, he's out. Free. Nothing. Wasn't an adult. 1 day off being an adult. Nothing we can do. Now, the Women's Safety Council in Queensland said, not having that. We're not having licensed private investigators charging around with trackers, listening devices, remote control, installed cameras in toilets and bedrooms and stuff like that, where they can use their sex life or humiliation or embarrassment gained from the activities of marital and relationship licensed private investigators. And in my submission, I said, yes, I agree with you. Each licensed private investigator that wants to do that, the company should pay $250,000, be subject to weekly drug tests, and they should also, if they have a complaint made against them or the SIM card there goes back to one of their burner phones and that's found out, and that will be found out by the $250,000 bond being given to some other enterprising private investigator who starts their business, basically checking that sort of thing through the backscattering process that you do with these things on the smart toaster, smart fridge, all that sort of stuff. It's not like when we didn't have the internet in the car park at the surf club. Right. That's what my recommendation has been. So it's going to clean up the Queensland marital and surveillance industry and stop them from doing that. It may save humiliation and embarrassment for some ladies in Queensland, and good on the Queensland Ladies Safety Council for doing that. It's great work, and I'm really pleased that they've done it. So, yeah, it's a dangerous job. I didn't know this guy had stabbed his girlfriend 35 times. Now, you get pissed off with someone you know, you look at the kitchen knife and think about it. You get them once or twice, you're going to have a pretty big, they're fighting for their life. There's going to be a pretty big lot of resistance, right? You would have to go completely psycho, completely bananas, completely lunatic to do it 35 times. Make eye contact with them while they're doing it. Ooh, dangerous place being a surveillance agent sometimes. So anyway, that's what happened to me. It happened here. It looks exactly the same today, except they've rendered it. So you never know what you're going to end up in. And the Women's Safety Council hit it on the head. We're not having people's sex lives put on trial anymore for creeps to get away with it. I hope that extends to Victoria. Good on you. Well done. Other things that are going on this week. MJM are looking for a surveillance operative down in Adelaide. So MJM is starring this week with factual investigators in Sydney, circumstance investigators in Melbourne. So that's really interesting. What else have we got? What have I missed? I've just got to check. Yeah, there's Andy. So problems. You can still order that book for Christmas. You get the Kindle version. Great read. You'll really enjoy reading it over summer. So that's, I think that's the last thing that I've got to remember. Every graduate student of the Australian Security Academy now becomes a member of AirLap. 15 people became members of AirLap this week. Today I was asked by the head of one company, what industry association should our staff join? Well, there's only one, and that is AirLap. It's the only one that's growing. All the others are shrinking in membership. Why are they shrinking in membership? They're out of touch. They're old people. They don't include young people. They don't welcome young people into their organisation. They've got their head stuck up their backside. They don't have Friday afternoon Investigators Uni, where you can get CPD points and CPE points. They don't think they should have that. You can get professional development points for training you've conducted and with the activities we've just looked at, and you can participate in prestigious industry awards and get points for that or education. Here we again have another look at this one, giving evidence in court and cross-examination every Friday. And we've done so now for 10 weeks in a row. And we did it as an experiment, and we know that we can do it. And it's raising the standard of the knowledge of emerging young investigators in Australia. I'm immensely proud of our attendee young investigators that have been attending that program, and their feedback has been excellent. Now, sometimes we might have a 1-hour presentation. Sometimes we might have a hard-hitting 15-minute presentation. Watch out in 2023 for me to ramp it right up, where we're going to probably have up to 2 to 3 hours of presentations every Friday. And they will be done by young private investigators, not sad old men. Interestingly, a couple of the investigation associations that are out there, when you go to them, all the speakers are ex-cops. I'd now like to tell you about Operation Tedious. And next meeting, we're going to have Operation Monotonous. And then we're going to have Operation Irrelevant. And then we're going to have Operation Nightmare. What's that got to do with this continuous professional development of private investigators? Nothing at all. Okay, so if you're looking to join an industry association, it's free if you are an Australian Security Academy graduate student. If you're not a member, get in touch with me. If you need my contact details, I'll find them. They're here somewhere. Here they are. Text me your email address. I'll add you to the Friday Investigations Uni list. So people, it's been a great year. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your messages of goodwill. Thank you for watching. Thank you for recommending other people to the Australian Security Academy throughout the year. You've been great supporters. Really proud to have you watching. Our watch time's gone through the roof. I've had to stop some of our programs going out to certain areas, particularly YouTube. We've got too many lunatics out there at the moment who are basically stalkers and trolling. So we've cut that right back, and we've gone on to a private system, and that private system is part of the uni. Thanks, Sharon. I really appreciate that. Anyway, that's part of the uni. That's growing. It's going. It's rocketing into outer space. So if you're on surveillance, be careful out there, people. Have a great Christmas. Have some time off. Next week, I've got a pre-recorded program, which I'll be monitoring, but I probably won't be presenting. If there's a job comes up, I'll let you know. Don't forget that one up in Cairns for the debt collect. That's a real beauty, a really good opportunity if you're in Cairns to grow your business and to merge with another very successful business up there. I forgot to mention the disclosure officer down at York Hall Whistleblowing, which is Clarity Investigations as well. ProCare have a factual investigator job in Brisbane. Enjoy your investigations, people. Enjoy your study. I've really enjoyed having you on along for the ride 50 times this year. It's been wonderful. You have been watching episode 181 of Positive Spy Curious for merging intelligent investigators and no trolls. I'm going out in the usual way. Whoops, no, I'm not.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
That's the way every investigation agency every week ends its activities for the week. Enjoy your Christmas, people. Enjoy being with your family. Have some fun. Enjoy yourself. Stay safe. I'll see you in the new year. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy.